Okay, so I hate to make anybody wait, so let's go ahead and get started. And as people come on, then they'll just, have the opportunity to join us. First of all, I want to welcome everyone to our second virtual Northwest Indiana Green Drinks. This is something new we're trying. I know that people were waiting for a long time to have educational offerings. So Kathy Sipple got us started last month with Northwest Indiana Region Resilience. And we're going to try this and see how it works. You may want to keep your eyes open because we may be showing up on different days during the week. I want to welcome everybody to Green Drinks, and usually we're together, but Zach has graciously, he's going to allow us to ask questions verbally, which will give us the chance to interact as if we were in the large room at Shoreline Brewery. Please feel free to eat tasty snacks and grab yourself a brew as if we were together at Shoreline. I know it's not the same, but we can recreate the ambience at home. Very good, Kevin. I really like you. You're showing us your beer. Okay, Zach Schleck, he's actually the director for Indiana Solar United Neighbors, and we're very excited that he agreed to take on Northwest Indiana, including Lake, Porter, and LaPorte counties. And we're going to have the opportunity here to form our own cooperative. And I'm not going to give away all of the goodies because I want Zach to have the opportunity to share with you. He has an immense bank of knowledge, and he's also a really great guy. So I know you're really going to enjoy this evening. So without further ado, Zach, I'm handing it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. I really appreciate it. And I thank you to everybody for tuning in tonight. I know there's nothing else in the world going on, so I'm glad that you could make a little bit of time to talk about solar with me tonight. Really looking forward to it. And as Nancy said, I do have a PowerPoint presentation I'm going to talk through a little bit here, but I don't want this to feel too formal. That's just a tool to help me stay kind of on task. But please, this is a meeting format. For those of you who are familiar with Zoom, please feel free at any time to unmute yourself, ask a question. You can also share questions in the chat if you're more comfortable typing, but I'm hoping that this can be kind of informal, and a good opportunity for us to have a good interactive conversation. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Can everybody see my presentation now?
Yep.
Seeing some nods? Okay. Wonderful. I'm also just gonna this real quick. All right, well, without further ado, I will go ahead and get us started. So as Nancy said, thank you for the warm introduction, Nancy. My name is Zach Schalk. I am the Indiana Program Director for Solar United Neighbors. And tonight I'm here to talk about the Northwest Indiana Solar and EV Charger Co-op. Before we get going in the presentation, I did just want to take a moment to address the ongoing uprising for racial justice and the inequities in our current energy system. And I think this framing is even more important, just given everything that's going on with the election. I think it's critical for us to kind of keep in mind the kind of world we're trying to fight for. So communities of color, particularly Black communities, bear an unfair share of the costs of energy production, but receive fewer benefits. And communities of color are also disproportionately harmed by higher utility bills and shutoffs, which has been even more critical during the COVID-19 crisis. And not to mention the negative environmental and health impacts of our legacy electricity generation infrastructure, primarily coal plants. And on top of all of that, housing discrimination is a barrier to homeownership and thus solar ownership. So when my organization, Solar United Neighbors, started as a group of economically and racially diverse neighbors in Washington, D.C., they focused on solar because it helped people pay their electric bills. It also helped them stay in their homes at a time when DC was quickly gentrifying and the whole country was in the middle of a financial crisis. So rooftop solar lets communities invest locally, creates good local jobs, and brings control of the energy system within our reach. So we're working towards a new energy system that everyone can participate in and that leaves no one behind. And we think rooftop solar should be at the cornerstone of that clean, just, and equitable energy system of the future. So Solar United Neighbors is a national 501c3 nonprofit organization. We are dedicated to helping Hoosiers go solar, join together, and fight for their energy rights. We launched our Indiana program just last year in 2019. So we're still relatively new here in Indiana. I'm based in Indianapolis, so we've primarily been focused in the central Indiana region so far, but we're really excited to expand up into the northern part of the state with this Northwest Indiana Co-op. But Indiana is one of our 12 states where we have on-the-ground programs. And so you can see them here on this map. And I think what's great to know about this is that even though we're still relatively new here in Indiana, as an organization, we actually were founded by a group of volunteers and neighbors all the way back in 2007. And so we've been growing since then. And we've actually facilitated more than 260 of these solar co-ops I'm going to talk about tonight. We've helped more than 5,000 homes, small businesses, and nonprofits go solar, and helped to drive more than $100 million in direct local economic impact through our solar co-op model. So we're really excited to be expanding that here in Indiana. So as Nancy mentioned earlier, the Northwest Indiana Co-op is open to neighbors in and around Lake, Porter, and LaPorte counties. The geographic boundaries aren't super sharp, so if you live just outside of any of these areas, I would still encourage you to join if you're interested. The point of the geographic boundaries is really that we want to have one single installer be able to serve everybody equally in the group. So really, if you're in kind of a neighboring county, more likely than not, you would get the same service from the same installer. So we're just focusing on these 3 counties, but even if you're a little bit outside there, this group is still a good option for you if you're interested in going solar. And I also want to start by thanking our incredible partners that really make all of this possible, help us connect with folks like you that we wouldn't be able to connect with otherwise. So we have a great bunch of statewide partners that are supporting our work. And then for this particular co-op, we're working primarily with 219 Green Connect, the Green Drinks Group, all of you, the Commission on Sustainability for Michigan City, and Northwest Region Resilience, Northwest Indiana Region Resilience, excuse me. So now let's kind of get into the meat of the presentation a little bit. So I don't think I have to convince many of you, but I give these presentations a lot, and I often do get some pushback about whether or not solar actually works here in this state. So I always like to start this presentation with this map that comes from the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and it basically shows the available solar resource across the United States. And I think what's great about this map is the comparison with Germany, which is the inset off the east coast of the continental United States. And it shows that Germany has way less available solar resource than we have right here in Indiana. So if they can do it in Germany, we can definitely harvest some of our sunshine and use it to pay our electric bills here in the Hoosier state. And thousands of Hoosiers around the state have already invested in solar. So we know that more than 4,000 homeowners are net metered customers already around the state. And so that number has been growing significantly over the past decade or so. So tonight, I'm primarily going to be talking about our co-op model. That's our co-op membership. And I'll talk more about the details of that later in the presentation. But I did just want to note real quick up front that we also offer an individual membership. So that's for folks who maybe live well outside of our co-op boundaries, but you still want our help to go solar, or potentially if you want to move a little bit faster on your own timeline, but you want our individual support. We do offer this individual membership that it is an $85 annual cost versus our solar co-op model is completely free. So there's no cost to join one of our solar co-ops. So the co-op model allows you to get a free custom quote for rooftop solar at the group rate, but our individual membership model basically allows you, we help you find installers in your area. You can go get quotes and we'll help you compare them side by side and answer any questions you have and kind of help you through the process. So if anybody's interested in that, just let me know and we can talk more after the presentation. So I'm really going to be talking about three main things over the next 30 minutes or so. So first, we're going to cover solar technology. Next, we're going to talk about how solar co-ops work. And then finally, we're going to talk about solar economics and kind of how it fits together and how it works to cut your electric bills and put some money in your pocket as a solar homeowner. So let's talk about the technology. So I just want to be really clear up front that I'm talking about solar photovoltaic or PV solar. So this is the technology that converts solar energy into electricity. There are other types of solar technology on the market, solar hot water, other kinds of solar, but we're really just talking about solar PV because that's really kind of the leading technology on the market. And so just to kind of give you a sense of some of the basic terminology that you'll hear me saying. So first of all, I want to explain the difference between kilowatts and kilowatt hours. So a kilowatt is 1,000 watts, and a watt is a measure of power. So you can think about it like the capacity, the generation capacity of a cell or anything else. And kilowatt hours are a unit of energy. And so it measures production of the system. And kilowatt hours are also what you pay for each month from your electric utility. And so when you will size your system in kilowatts, and you get that by multiplying the watt rating of each individual panel times the number of panels in your system. So in this example here, we have 12 300-watt panels. So you multiply 300 by 12, and you get a 3.6 kilowatt solar system. And this is just a little bit of a scale drawing so you get a sense of how large these panels are. They're about 3 feet wide, 5 to 6 feet tall, and they're about 30 pounds, 30 to 40 pounds, depending on the panel, so pretty easy to pick up. And so most homeowners will install a system between 2 to 12 kilowatts, though we definitely could potentially see larger systems depending on your property and the type of energy needs that you have. So in my normal presentations, I go into a little bit more detail on all of these components, but I wanted to try to cut it down a little bit for this discussion tonight. But just to kind of give you a sense of the components of your solar installation, there are really four main parts. So first is your solar array. That's the panels that are strung together, whether they're on your roof or maybe a ground mount system somewhere else on your property, if that is what works better for you. But basically the panels are strung together. They're the workhorse of the installation. They're designed, they have silicon wafers that are designed to absorb the solar radiation and convert it into direct current electricity. That direct current electricity then flows down to number 2, which is your inverter. The inverter is the part of the system that takes the direct current electricity and turns it into AC or alternating current electricity, which is what we actually use in our homes. And if you're somebody who's interested in potentially installing an electric vehicle charger to complement your solar, which a lot of folks really appreciate the combination of solar and EVs, so you're able to charge your car from your solar panels. You can get an inverter that actually operates also as that EV charger to be a little more efficient, since your electric vehicle will be charged in direct current electricity. So once that electricity is an AC, it goes to your electrical panel, which is where all your circuits connect in your house, and will go to serve any load that you have in your home. So any lights that are on, your TV's on, electrons from your solar panel will go and serve that load. But if you're actually producing more than you need at any point in time, those extra electrons will go out through your utility meter and then out onto the grid. And those electrons will go to your neighbors and your neighbors' neighbors on the distribution grid until they're all spent up. So that's a very quick and dirty high-level overview. I'm happy to answer any more technical questions, or for those of you who are interested, we do have a recording of one of our in-depth information sessions on the co-op webpage, which I should have mentioned earlier, is solarunitedneighbors.org/NWI. That's where you can go to sign up to join the group, to find information and learn more, and to watch one of my full information session videos.
I have two quick questions.
Yeah, please.
Is there like a battery located anywhere in the system to store energy?
So that's a great question. I think it's in either the next slide or 2 slides from now. I'll talk specifically about batteries.
Okay. Secondly, if one were to get a system installed and then maybe go buy an electric car and need more power, could one just get more solar panels and add it on?
So technically, yes, you definitely can add on to your system in the future. It does cost money, obviously. And the other key consideration, which I'll talk a little bit more shortly about net metering, but because net metering is currently scheduled to phase out in Indiana, and so for most of you who are in NIPSCO territory, likely, NIPSCO, is probably going to be the next utility that files to end net metering for their customers. And if you do add panels and you have to install a new inverter, that because your system is now larger, you would have to sign a new interconnection agreement with the utility, which could potentially mean that you wouldn't be able to benefit from that metering depending on when you're doing that. So if that's something you're considering in this planning process, I would definitely encourage you to talk to your installer about that. And then what they can do is potentially just oversize your inverter so that you don't have to sign a new agreement in the future. So that's a great question, and that's one of the real benefits of the co-op process is that even though it's a group process, each individual gets to talk to the installer and get a custom proposal based on their specific needs, but you know exactly what to expect because there's a group rate. And so everybody understands, what the different offerings are that are available. And we, Solar United Neighbors, provides a easy to digest summary right up front in the process once the installer is selected. So that's a great question.
So I have one question.
Yeah, please.
So with the solar panels, is it possible to just completely say FU NIPSCO and just goes solar?
Technically, it is possible, and people do that, but it's very, very rare because it's extremely expensive. And so I'll talk a little bit more about this on my slide about batteries. But basically, 99% of solar installations around the country are what's called grid tied. So that's where you're still connected to the grid, and you benefit from the grid when the sun isn't shining at nighttime. And it just right now with net metering in place, it really allows you to use the grid as a battery, so you can benefit from the electricity that you generate during the day, potentially in excess at night, without having to install a battery. But if you are interested in exploring going off grid, you can definitely talk to your installer about that. But it definitely gets very, very expensive very quickly.
Well, NIPSCO is very, very expensive. I'm paying them $300 every 2 weeks.
Sure.
That's $600 a month.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely understand the appeal. And if it's something that you're interested in exploring, I definitely would encourage you to at least talk to your installer about it. The reality is that batteries are just especially batteries that are big enough to potentially cover your entire home load it's really expensive right now. They are going down in cost. And so one potential option, even if you, aren't able to install a battery right now, you can make sure your installer understands your interest, and, they would be very interested in getting your repeat business in the future, and they can design a system so it's easily compatible with a future battery installation as the cost of batteries come down.
So,
sorry.
Second question. So with this all the solar panels, will it generate enough electricity for me to operate my whole area here, my house, without paying NIPSCO anything for electricity?
So it can. If you size, again, it depends. There's a lot of variables about, what your property is suited for, which, in this slide, I talk about some of the things that make a good site for solar, and how much load you have, right? If you have the space to physically fit enough panels, you can have a system that's designed to cover your 100% of your annual electricity usage. And then because of net metering, the way that works out is that you produce additional electricity in the summer months and then get credits on your bill that you use in the winter months when your panels aren't producing as much. And so there are, it's definitely possible to design a system where your electric bill won't be zero because there are fixed charges that you have to pay, but you can get down just to that fixed cost, which I'm sorry, I'm not exactly, I think it's around $10 or $15 in NIPSCO territory, if I remember correctly.
I have another question. A few weeks ago here in Northwest Indiana, we had a really bad rainstorm. There was flooding. I didn't have flooding, but I did have my power go out for like 3 or 4 days. Would having solar panels protect you against that, or could the rain knock out your solar panels too?
So you guys are just hitting on all of my presentation points. That's a great question too. So basically, unless you have a battery or a special inverter that allows you to island, when the grid goes down, your solar panels will also shut off, and that's a safety mechanism that basically is meant to protect any line workers that might be out trying to fix the grid. We don't want to be sending electricity onto the grid that can get somebody hurt. But if you either get a battery or have a special inverter that basically allows your system to be treated like a generator that kicks on when the power goes off, you can use whatever electricity you're generating. Now, if it's in the middle of the night or a rainstorm where there's not much sun, right, that you might not be producing very much electricity. But that is certainly an option. And again, something I would definitely encourage you to talk to your installer about, because they can produce all different types of system designs for you. Okay, I'm going to keep us moving a little bit, but I did just want to talk, real quickly about what makes a good roof for solar, or just anywhere on your property if you're looking to potentially do a ground mount. Facing south is the ideal orientation. These are fixed in their orientation. So by facing south, that provides the panel with the most solar exposure throughout the year. But panels are efficient enough today that you can really face east and west. You really just don't want to be facing north. You want to try to avoid as much shading as possible. Anytime your panels are shaded, they're not producing electricity for you. So avoid shading, especially during the peak times of day, kind of 9 to 10 in the morning and 2 to 3 at night, depending on the time of year. And you also need to have enough space. And finally, you want to make sure your roof is in good enough condition. If it's, our rule of thumb is if your roof is going to be replaced within the next 10 years, you should do that first or at the same time as your solar panels are getting installed, because it's pretty expensive to take the panels down, replace the roof, and put the panels back up, and it'll definitely eat into your return on investment. So these next couple of slides I'm going to breeze through because I've kind of talked about it a little bit already. So when the power goes down, as I mentioned, most panels or most systems will shut down until the power comes back up. But you can pursue batteries if that's something you're interested in. So batteries are really good for emergency disaster preparedness. If you live somewhere with frequent outages, or if you have critical loads at your home, like medical equipment or something else that you really need to make sure to keep online. But they are very expensive now. In Indiana, given the way our electric billing is designed, you're probably not going to see a great return on investment for a battery, though it is possible. So we do help folks install batteries. We've helped about 65 people go solar here in Indiana, and I would say maybe 5 of them have installed batteries along with their solar panels. But it is still just pretty expensive. But if that's something you're interested in, definitely talk to your installer. And if you want to learn more, we have, you can go to solarunitedneighbors.org/storage. We have a bunch of resources. We have a whole hour-long recorded webinar just on battery storage and how it pairs with solar. And we also have a free guide that you can download. So next I want to talk a little bit about net metering, which again, I mentioned a little bit earlier, and many of you might be familiar with net metering. And for those of you who are kind of interested in the battery question, net metering really allows you to use the grid as a battery as far as monetizing and benefiting from the excess electricity you might produce during the day or during certain times of year. So net metering basically allows the flow of electricity to and from customers valued at the same kilowatt hour rate that you pay for electricity from the utility. And basically with net metering, your electric bill, setting aside any fixed charges or taxes or other things, is going to be the amount of electricity you used minus the amount of electricity you produced. And so that means if you produce more than you use over the course of a month, then you actually end up with credits on your bill. And I think the best way to think about this is visually, where you can see if your system is designed to cover 100% of your annual electricity usage, how that's going to play out is that during the day, you're going to be producing a lot more than you're using. And then in certain times of the year, you're going to be producing a lot more over the course of a month than you use. But as I mentioned before, you build credits up in those months. So you get kilowatt hour credits. You're not getting a check from the utility, but you get credits on your bill that roll over indefinitely and that you spend down in the months where you aren't producing as much as you actually use. So that's kind of the foundational piece of the economic puzzle for solar that we'll talk more about later. But I also mentioned earlier that's maybe a little more complicated than that here in Indiana. This only applies for investor-owned utility customers. So if you live in a municipal utility or a rural electric co-op, this law won't apply to you. But in 2017, a law called SCA 309 was passed that basically created a timeline, among other things, created a timeline for ending net metering. And so the absolute drop dead deadline is July 1, 2022. That's when, under the current law, net metering will end in all the investor-owned utility territories. But it actually might end a little sooner, depending on your utility. So the first utility, Vectren, down in Southwest Indiana, has actually already filed to end net metering for new solar customers in their area. So it's happening, and all the other utilities, including NIPSCO, are required to at least file to start the process no later than March 1 of next year, 2021. So this is something that we are actively engaged in the fight to protect net metering. We're one of the interveners in the Vectren case. And in addition to helping people go solar, one of our mission is to help build a strong solar movement of supporters around the state who can speak up and show their power and ultimately push back against utility-driven laws like SCA 309. So even if you don't think you can go solar, I would hope that you will consider joining our solar movement and be a strong voice for solar, especially customer-owned solar at the State House. And I'll provide an easy way for you to do that later in this presentation. But so once net metering ends, instead of net metering under the current law, your excess generation will be valued at the marginal price, which is usually about a third of the cost of retail rate, plus 25%. So we're, as I said, the other utilities haven't actually filed to find out what that rate will be in their territory yet. But we do have some modeling with our kind of best guess of what that might look like that I'll talk about in the economics section a little bit later. So I know this is fairly complicated, but I'm happy to answer any questions about net metering as well. So I do just want to hit on a few of the frequently asked questions that we get. So warranties are really important. You'll want to make sure you understand your production warranty, your labor warranty, and your equipment warranty. And that's another huge benefit of being in the co-op because we help you understand all of that up front, and we're there to answer any questions that you might have. As far as property value and taxes, Indiana has a property tax exemption for renewable energy investments. So you will not see your property taxes go up, even though there is really good data from all over the country showing that your property value should increase by adding solar onto your home. So that's a good benefit. You'll definitely want to talk to your homeowner's insurance if you do go solar. Most folks, it's not an issue, but it's important for them to know that they have solar on your roof, so to make sure it's covered in the case you need that. And the last thing I'll touch on here is maintenance. Maintenance is one of the key benefits of rooftop solar. It's a low maintenance system, especially if you're on a pitched asphalt shingle roof. tends to clean itself pretty well. There's no moving parts. So we just encourage folks to maybe have it cleaned or clean it yourself once every 5 years or so. It's always good to have somebody kind of check up on it, but you should be able to monitor it through your inverter and just know that it's working okay. And if not, your warranty should cover any issues that you have. I guess one more thing I will touch on is the question of homeowners associations. So unfortunately, HOAs are a huge barrier to solar here in Indiana. This is another issue that we've been organizing to try to fight over the last couple of years. But right now, you basically will have to just read your HOA governing documents and find out if they say anything about solar. This is another area where we've helped folks work with their HOA, overcome HOA barriers. So if that is something that you think might be of interest to you, just let me know. I have my contact information later in the presentation.
2 quick questions.
Yep.
On the taxes and stuff, isn't there something right now currently in effect that's going to be expiring pretty soon, where if you can get the solar panels and everything installed, you can basically claim an additional $2,000 on your taxes or something?
Well, so there's a federal investment tax credit, and I'll talk more about that in the economic section. But it's basically allows you to, it's a non-refundable credit for systems installed this year, 26% of your the total cost of the installation. Next year, it's scheduled to go down to 22%.
Okay, and then on the second question is on the maintenance. Hail. I mean, we get hail in here in Northwest Indiana.
Yep.
Like, how long is that going to be covered underneath your warranty under the maintenance, or?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So first of all, these the panels are designed to be outside. They're designed to handle significant weather. My understanding is that most of the equipment warranty, which is what would cover that, it depends on the manufacturer of the panels. But typically we see warranties that cover, hail, like up to 2-inch hail, damage caused by up to 2-inch hail. And oftentimes if you make sure your homeowner's insurance, is aware of the panels being up there, the homeowner's insurance can help with, covering costs of reinstallation and stuff like that. So if you get, the equipment covered by the warranty, your homeowner's insurance can cover the reinstallation costs.
Okay.
And I will say, we've talked anecdotally with, a lot of solar homeowners here in Indiana, and I haven't yet heard anybody who said that their panels have been damaged by hail. So anecdotally, for whatever that's worth. Oh, and thank you, Nancy. One last thing, how long do the systems last? So the production warranty for the system is usually a 25-year guarantee of producing anywhere between 80 to 90% of its day one capacity. So we usually say 25 years is the system life, but ultimately the panels are going to keep working even after that 25-year horizon. They'll just start to get less and less efficient as the materials start to degrade. But so you can bank on them producing what you expect for at least 25 years. All right, so let's talk about the co-ops. So our solar co-ops are kind of our bread and butter, how we help folks go solar. Our goal is to help bring together neighbors and small businesses in that given geographic area and help you leverage your bulk purchasing power through a competitive bidding process to get the best value on your installation. And you also get our technical support through every step of the process. So that's, and we provide educational resources and make sure we're there to answer any questions you might have. But we also, are in the process of organizing and building Indiana solar movement. So we're also really excited to help you connect with fellow solar enthusiasts and make your voice heard to hopefully, enact policies that expand access and to solar here in Indiana. And so one thing that's really unique about our co-op process is how the installer is selected. So basically what happens is we issue a request for proposal. We haven't done that yet in the Northwest Indiana Co-op, but we are excited to probably be doing that as early as next week, given the number of members we have in the group. And then basically we issue requests for proposals, we get back competitive bids from installers in and around the area. We process them so you can really look at them side by side. And then we host what we call a selection committee meeting, which is a group of volunteers from the co-op who come together, review those bids with our neutral, facilitation and support. And then the co-op members themselves are the ones who actually make the installer choice. So they're looking at everything from price, equipment quality, warranties, experience, business location. And when you join the co-op before an installer is selected, you actually fill out a survey that helps us understand what you value in an installation. And we make sure that the group that makes the installer pick keeps all of that information in mind when they're reviewing bids. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but this is just a little outline of how the co-op process works. It will take around 6 to 8 months to totally complete the co-op process, not for each individual, but just as a whole. And so right now we're in the early stage where we're trying to get as many folks to join the group. And so I'm doing meetings like this, trying to connect with community members. And I'm giving more of these presentations. So we actually have a couple more of our solar one-on-one information sessions coming up over the next couple months. So you can find all of that at solarunitedneighbors.org/NWI. But basically, we try to get as many people as possible to sign up to join the group before we issue the RFP. Right now, we're at about 25 members, but hopefully we can get that up to around 30 next week. So hopefully some of you will consider joining. And I hope that you'll also consider spreading the word, because we really rely on word of mouth from folks like you to make sure we connect with people in the community. I see a question asking how close to co-op neighbors need to be. So really anywhere across the geographic region that I mentioned earlier. So Lake County, Porter County, and LaPorte County are the 3 primary counties, but even folks near the county line or in the surrounding counties are eligible for this co-op. I see another question about costs, and I will cover that shortly. But so once we get to a certain point, which we think we're going to get to next week, we issue our RFP, which I just talked about briefly. And then once the co-op members select an installer, we connect all the co-op members with that installer. We provide a simple description of what to expect from the bid, what the pricing is, what upgrades are available, what the equipment offerings are, what the warranties look like, so you know exactly what to expect. And then you connect with the installer. The installer will look at your property and talk to you, and will design a custom system to meet your needs based on the co-op pricing. And so again, this entire process is completely free. There's no obligation to go solar. It's just an opportunity to get to this point where you get a free custom quote for solar on your home or small business, or municipality or nonprofit or whoever you represent. And then you can look at that contract and find it and decide whether or not you think solar is the right for you right now. Hopefully you do, and when you sign a contract, then you'll be scheduled to install your solar, and hopefully we're getting as much solar installed up in Northwest Indiana as possible through this co-op. And then finally, at the end of the time, we are trying to connect people together, so we always like to throw a party. We'll see what that ends up looking like here in the COVID times. But hopefully we are able to kind of connect everybody together as much as possible through this process. Let's see, I see a few more questions here. Do we have a sense of the typical savings value? I will also cover that, the savings through the co-op process here in this next section. And then I see a question about historic districts. Great question. So historic districts, unfortunately, are pretty much a case-by-case basis. In general, historic districts usually don't like seeing solar facing the street, but oftentimes will allow solar to be installed in other locations on the property. But ultimately, you'll just need to work with your installer, get system design or rendering, whatever is required for your specific historic district, and then present to the historic district. That's something that installers usually help with, and if your installer, for whatever reason, is unable to help you with that, we might be able to help as well. And finally, do we only deal with rooftop solar? So we primarily work with rooftop solar just because most folks, their roofs are good for solar and they're not using them for anything else. But we also help people with ground mounts as well. So it's totally whatever makes sense for you. The installers will generally do both. All right, so let's talk. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
One quick question, because I know I tried going through this another organization for solar power, and I have a very low credit score. And they said, "Oh no, we can't help you buy." So, is there anything in your guys' program where it says, "Well, you have to have a credit score of this"?
No, there's absolutely no credit obligations or credit checks. I mean, our process is completely free. We're really just trying to help you connect with a reputable installer and benefit from the bulk purchasing power of the group to get a great deal. You know, if you are interested in financing, there are different financing options that might require, you know, certain credit ratings, but that we don't. Solar United Neighbors does not offer financing, so we can help you identify financing opportunities, but that's not something that we do directly.
Right.
So you can definitely join the group and get a quote without any kind of, credit checks or anything like that. So let's talk about the economics a little bit. The reality is that solar is still a sizable investment, even though the cost of solar has decreased significantly, as I've talked about, or as I will talk about shortly. But what's important to note is that you're not making this investment in solar in a vacuum. Solar is a way for you to hedge against the future increases in electricity rates and to take some of those future electric bills that you're going to pay anyways in the future and bundle them together and turn them into an asset that will actually generate a return over its lifetime. And so we can look at real data. This chart shows that the average rates of electric rates at Indiana's 5 investor-owned utilities have increased by 40% over the last decade. The average is there in red. You see NIPSCO in green, even above the average. So the electric rates keep going up and up and up. And solar is a great way for you to hedge against that in the future and again, generate a return from that investment. And on top of that, solar is just increasingly affordable. So we've seen over the past decade, the cost of the solar equipment, so the panels, the racking, the inverter, that has actually decreased by about 90% compared to where it was a decade ago. And so that has filtered down to cheaper per watt prices for rooftop solar installations. And so what this chart shows is real industry data showing that decrease in price. But it also shows in orange here, the data that we've been tracking internally to our process, showing the real savings that Solar United Neighbors, our co-ops, have been able to generate below what the average market looks like. So you might be asking, where those savings come from. And so this takes a different look at that data. This is breaking up the different components of the cost of going solar, which show that 10 years ago, the cost of going solar was primarily driven by the expensive equipment. But today, the cost of equipment is actually less than a third of the overall cost of installing residential solar systems. And instead, what's called soft costs make up the majority of the costs. And those include things like permitting or working with an HOA or a historic district, but it's also the cost of acquiring customers. So solar companies spend a lot of money going out and trying to find a customer who's willing to actually install solar. And so what the co-ops are able to do is cut directly into those soft costs by organizing interested folks who are educated and motivated to go solar and connecting with an installer directly and saying, hey, if you give us the best deal, you're going to have access to 30, 40, 50, or 100 of these interested customers that you can work with. And so that's where we see the co-op savings, is through that bulk purchasing power of the group. So I know this is the moment that everybody's been waiting for. Let's talk about some example pricing. Before I dive in too deep, I do just want to provide a caveat here that everybody's system will look different. You'll be producing different amounts of electricity depending on your orientation, The costs will look different depending on factors of your property. So I don't want folks to get too, dialed in on the specific numbers here, because everybody's proposal is going to look different. So what I think this chart does is help you get a little sense of ballpark ranges, and then more importantly, help you see where the value of your solar installation is actually coming from in terms of savings. So basically what we're looking at here is example system pricing and return on investment estimates for 2 different systems. So in the left column, we see a 4 kilowatt system. On the right column, we see an 8 kilowatt system. And so that's generally a decent range. The average installation for residential system floats anywhere between 6 kilowatts to 8 kilowatts, depending on the utility territory. So this is a pretty good range to see what your solar installation might look like. And again, depending on factors about how much energy you actually use in your home, how much space you have on your roof or elsewhere in your property, that will depend what type of system you're looking at. So we multiply the per watt price based on this Indiana average of $2.56 per watt by the system size to get the top line prices. So that's where we get a little over $10,000 for the 4 kilowatt system, a little over $20,000 for the 8 kilowatt system. Then we're able to take the 22% federal investment tax credit off the top. Again, the assumption here is that the system is going to be installed next year. So that's why we're using the 22% tax credit number. And so that gets us to the net cost of a little under $8,000 for that 4 kilowatt system and a little under $16,000 for that 8 kilowatt system. So that's the cost. Now let's talk about the savings. So our savings estimates are based on NIPSCO's actual electric rates and based on averages of solar production in your area. And so when you add those up, we estimate a year 1 electricity savings of over $700 for the 4 kilowatt system and over $1,400 for the 8 kilowatt system. And then as electricity prices continue to go up, we see those savings continue to accumulate. And so we project to 2032 using full retail rate net metering, where the excess generation is valued the same as your retail electricity rate. And then we've used our best guess of what the post net metering rate is going to look like to project out from 2032 to the 25-year system lifetime. And that's how we get to our net profit. So we're getting close to $7,000 in net profit for the 4 kilowatt system and about $13,600 for the 8 kilowatt system over the lifetime of the system. And so this is just meant to be illustrative of where your value is coming from, which is again offsetting those monthly electric payments that are so high and are going up, up, and up in NIPSCO territory. This also excludes some other potential revenue sources. So there's these things called SRECs, or solar renewable energy credits, which are a financial product that you can sell on the market in Ohio that represents the green value of the electricity you're generating. Unfortunately, those credits are very low in value right now, but they could go back up in the future depending on Ohio's policy or proactive policy here in Indiana. But that's just to illustrate that there are actually even more potential value streams that could come from your solar panels. So the one other thing about costs that I want to mention here is for folks who are interested in electric vehicles. I did want to include just some numbers about EV chargers. And one of the benefits of this co-op is that you can install solar. You can install solar and an electric vehicle charger, which is probably the best value of the co-op, because you can do it all with one contractor while they're out there at the same time and benefit from the group savings by doing all of that at once with the group. Or you can also just install a level 2 EV charger. If you're not quite ready to go solar, but you want to add a level 2 EV charger at your home or small business, you can do that through the group as well. But just to give you a little sense of ballpark cost there's a wide range on the charger depending on the type of technology that you're looking at. But based on kind of averages, looking at a charging unit that's going to be anywhere between $500 and $700, installation costs that'll be anywhere between $500 to $2,000. So that gets you a ballpark total between $1,000 and $2,700, and that's where we can try to keep that in the lower end of the range if you're bundling that with a solar installation through the group. So we talked about the federal tax credit a little bit earlier, but I did just want to kind of point out the rate at which it's scheduled to step down under current law. So this year it's 26% of the total installation cost. Next year it's scheduled to go to 22%. And then without any proactive action, it's scheduled to actually phase out entirely for residential customers, though for commercial installations for businesses, it will actually stay at about at 10% after 2022. But so this is just another, between the federal investment tax credit and net metering, I think really makes a compelling case that if you're interested in going solar, you want to make sure to go solar as soon as possible while these benefits are still available. So I think this is the last part of this presentation, but I did just want to cover a few financing options that might be of interest to folks. So again, we're not financiers. We're just a nonprofit that's trying to help you connect with vendors, and we stay vendor neutral. But there are a range of financing options if you don't have enough cash to pay for a solar system directly. I should not mention here, most installers do offer financing, but a lot of installer financing really just isn't very good. It ends up being higher cost. So we like, if you have other avenues that are available to you, we encourage folks to explore all options that are available. So, you can always take out a standard loan if you have that available to you. A home equity line of credit is often going to be your best interest rate if that's available. There are special solar loans or bridge loans. Bridge loans are usually the value of your investment tax credit that help you get to the point where you actually monetize that tax credit. And one option that would be available to you if you join the co-op is the Clean Energy Credit Union. So it's a national credit union that only is able to be accessed by members of certain organizations. So by being a co-op member or an individual member for Solar United Neighbors, you get access to that credit union. And we don't get any financial benefit from that. So, totally just one option for you to be aware of. And the last bit is the FHA actually has a program called Solar Technologies, the Solar Technologies program. And it allows you to refinance or create a new mortgage and add the cost of solar into that. So you can actually roll the solar payment in over the lifetime of your mortgage, whatever your mortgage is at, get that great low mortgage, FHA rate, and pay for your panels that way. And I should say, if any of these are available to you, oftentimes your payment structure can be designed so that your payments are actually less each month than what you're saving. So you can still be net cash flow positive, even if your monthly savings aren't as great as if you were paying with cash. And then finally, if you are a rural business owner or farmer or any type of business in a rural community, there is grant funding available through the USDA's REAP program, or Rural Energy for America program, that pays for solar, it pays for energy efficiency, and that's something that we can help you navigate that grant process if that's something you're interested in. All right, so that is the economics part. I'm gonna just get to the end of my presentation, then I'll be happy to stick around for any additional questions. So what's next? I hope you have been convinced and are interested in joining the co-op. I mentioned this a few times already, but you can go to solarunitedneighbors.org/NWI. That's the co-op landing page. There's more information about the co-op, more information about upcoming events we have, where I'll give the full version of this presentation. And there's a bright orange button that says join the co-op. Click on that. It takes about 5 minutes to fill out the form. We'll do a roof review. So we'll take a look at your property and we'll let you know up front if we think your property is a good fit for solar or not. And we'll let you know that so you can, if for whatever reason it's shaded or there's not enough room, we'll let you know that up front. So I hope that you'll consider joining. I hope you'll tell your family, friends, and coworkers about some of our upcoming events, and we'll encourage them to join as well. And then finally, I mentioned earlier about the solar movement that we're working to build. And so even if you don't join the co-op, but you still want to take a stand for solar, we do have an action up right now. If you go to solarunitedneighbors.org/IN solar future, it's not case sensitive, just easier to read that way. /IN solar future, you can contact your representatives, let them know that you support strong solar policy. And the other great thing about that is you'll be signed up to kind of hear from us about future advocacy opportunities and ways that you can take action. So I really hope, even if you aren't going to join the co-op, I hope you'll consider being a part of our solar movement and taking action to support strong solar policies here in Indiana. And that's all that I have. Again, my name is Zach Schalk, and I'm the program director for Solar United Neighbors of Indiana. You can send us an email at inteam@solarunitedneighbors.org, or you can email me directly. I'm just Zach, Z-A-C-H, @solarunitedneighbors.org. And thank you very much. I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen, and then we can stop share. And then if anybody wants to ask questions, I'm happy to answer anything else.
So if your house is covered by a VA secure loan,
Well, I don't know. I'm not an expert in that, so I don't want to give you the wrong information. But if you have specific questions, if you email our IN team inbox, we do have folks who are financing experts on staff, and I can forward your question on to them.
okay.
I'm not sure. I don't want to give you bad information.
So at the beginning of this, you said there's two ways of being a member of the co-op.
Yeah. So here I can go back to that. The co-op itself, there's only one type of membership for the co-op. Here, I'll share my screen again quickly. But we do offer an individual membership that is separate from the co-op, but still gives you access to our technical support. And so that is an $85 annual membership fee because we have our technical professionals will help you compare bids, we'll answer any questions you have, we'll help you find reputable installers separate from our co-op process. But since everybody, I think everybody who's on this line or on this call is in our co-op area, or at least close to our co-op area, I would encourage you to join our co-op, unless the only reason an individual member, it might be if you're looking to move really fast, you could consider the individual membership to help you speed things up. But the co-op process gets you basically everything that the individual membership would get you for free. So I would encourage you to do the co-op membership if that's something you're interested
in. Zach, I noticed that I had to sign up 2 times actually. Once was to become a general member of Solar United Neighbors, which was like the national organization. And then I actually needed to do a second sign up to become a part of the Northwest Indiana cooperative. Is that correct?
Yeah, so if you want to be a co-op member in the Northwest Indiana Solar and EV Charger Co-op, you need to go to that webpage, solarunitedneighbors.org/NWI, and click the button that says join the co-op. So that's the only way to join the co-op is to go to that webpage. Our national membership that's on the main solarunitedneighbors.org website is separate from that.
Right. I thought I had signed up, and then I found out that I had not signed up. So I wanted to be sure everybody that's taking part in this Northwest Indiana Green Drinks is aware of that.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. Under the group membership, it says free 1-year membership. Is after the first year, do you have to start paying, or is there any reason to be a member after you get the installation?
Yeah, so basically the free 1-year membership means that you have access to our full, technical support staff for that first year. If you want that kind of access, that would be one reason to basically become a recurring member. So we have a help desk that can answer questions for you. You can, we are a nonprofit organization. We do rely on support from paying members as part of our base to keep going. So you can also become a paying member to support our work. But basically the free 1-year membership is really more about, in this context, is more about getting access to our technical help desk support for that first year that you're a co-op member.
Okay, I wanted to be sure if anybody had any remaining questions that they have the chance to ask those, since we have Zach with
Yes.
us.
I was wondering, with the 1-year membership and the 6 to 8 month process, if a person joined now, would they have their solar installed in time for that 2021 tax? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So the 6 to 8 month process isn't for each individual. That's for the group as a whole.
Okay.
So if you join now, we're expecting to have an installer selected in December, which means we would anticipate, especially for a motivated co-op member who's following up and doing everything, you can probably expect to have a system installed in the first quarter of next year. And then, working with NIPSCO will determine how quickly it actually gets turned on. But I think if you join today, you can be very comfortable in making and assuming that you'll get your system installed well before the end of next year.
Now, do I understand correctly that you can join the co-op even if you don't wind up getting any solar at all?
Correct. The co-op there's no obligation to go solar. It's completely free. The co-op process is really just designed to get you that custom quote at the group rate. And so then, you can decide, boy, this really isn't for me, or my financial situation has changed. And then, the great thing about, because it is free and no obligation, and for whatever reason, the following year the time is right, you can join the next round of the group, assuming that, we do another round in this area, which I hope we're successful enough that we do.
So for the co-op to put in all the, invest all this, there has to be 50 to 100 people that signed up.
Oh, no, so that's just usually the type of numbers we see. So we're definitely moving forward. We're definitely going to go to RFP, even if we don't see that size. Though I think the smallest co-op, so this is our 6th co-op in Indiana. The previous 5, the smallest one had 60 members, and the largest one had almost 115 members, I think. So that's the kind of range that we've seen. So that's just what we expect the size to be.
Right. And Zach, you had given me earlier today, the December 31st would probably be the drop dead date to sign up to be part of this Northwest Indiana Cooperative.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. Yeah, so right now we do have a sign up deadline of December 31st. We always reserve the right to extend that. It really, the deadline is, nothing motivates like a deadline. So the deadline can be a useful motivating tool down the road. But ultimately, it's all about that key question of how many people can the installer serve equally. So if the group starts getting really big and the installer can't handle all of the business equally, then we'll close the group. But if, say, we get to the end of December and they still have plenty of capacity and there's still people coming in, we'll just extend the deadline until we feel like the group is getting too big. And on the other side of things, if it does get too big, that means there's a lot of demand, and we can close the group, open a new round and issue a new RFP to select a new installer.
Great. Okay, that's extremely wonderful information to have and very hopeful. And I'm really looking forward to a brighter, cleaner energy movement here in Northwest Indiana. So Zach, I want to thank you so very much for spending your time with us this evening. This has been very informative. And I even got questions asked that I hadn't even thought of before. And I know I've probably done about 3 or 4 of these by this point in time. I just really want to thank the 24 people that joined us this evening. Zach has graciously recorded this session, so we'll be posting it on Northwest Indiana Green Drinks, the Michigan City Sustainability Commission, 219 Green Connect, and also Northwest Indiana Region Resilience, who were our 4 sponsors this evening. And we have many partners, too many for me to mention at this point in time. I know Zach had shown you those that were specific to Northwest Indiana, but know that we have partners across the whole state of Indiana, one of which is the Hoosier Environmental Council, and I do want to mention them. And Zach, thank you so very much for mentioning and sharing with us action that we can continue to take with our Indiana state senators and representatives, that we need to let them know that we are pro-solar, that we are pro-clean energy, that we are pro-saving for the individuals in our communities that find it hard to meet their everyday energy bills. So I'm going to wrap it up now, and December, as usual, we will take off. Northwest Indiana Green Drinks has established a tradition of not meeting in December because it's the holidays and nobody showed up anyhow for the most part. And also July, because it's when all of our friends and relatives come to visit us because they love Lake Michigan. So anyhow, expect to see a posting for January. I'm not sure what the topic's going to be yet, but we've been trying to get, hopefully, Danielle Pointer from Carbon Neutral Indiana, or we're also speaking to some people to talk about dark skies in Northwest Indiana. And if you have any suggestions, we're very open to what you would like to see us doing. I have activated my Gmail account, so if you would like to send me ideas or have questions, my Gmail is nancyforvision@gmail.com. That's nancyforvision@gmail.com. And that's the easiest way to get to me and also to Northwest Indiana Green Drinks. I expect that Kathy Sipple will be joining us in the future. And I'm very excited about this new format. We're offering this platform to anyone in Northwest Indiana that has something related to green that would love to promote that. So my spouse made me appear teeny. So I'm going to toast whomever's out there with, yes, a beer or a cocktail or whatever during this coronavirus pandemic. We can still meet each other. We can still talk with each other. Yes, Kevin. Clink on the Miller can there. This is really great. I've missed all of you terribly. And again, thank you to all of you that joined this evening. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank
Thank you so much. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.